The Knights of Ren podcast is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., your source for Star Wars Destiny singles, sealed product, and more. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
Show me again the power of the darkness.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll. D20radio.com.
I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
Hey, kid. I'm putting together a crew. You in?
That's yes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Knights of Ren, episode 603. This week, we've got Rick. No, wait. We've got Todd and Nick. No Rick. So how's everybody doing?
What's up, guys?
Get out of here. We're good.
Hi, Rick.
Wow, Todd went backwards in time.
No, I think that was Rick.
That was Rick?
Yeah.
Rick's been on the Benjamin Button juice, huh?
Yeah. No, that was my little one. So he's at the shop tonight. So he just said, "Hey."
Well, that's wonderful.
So yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, how was your guys' week? We didn't record last week, so what's been going on since we last talked?
Go for it, Nick.
Oh man, I don't know. Playing a little bit of board games actually here and there. Not a ton of Destiny. Only been playing a few times at the local things on our Thursday nights. But we did a trilogy event a few weeks ago. Played some Battle Droid deck with the promos from Worlds. Tried to make an Afra Vehicles deck this week, and it went really bad. And probably gonna have to shelve that until the next set or try something different. But just trying out some silly stuff. Not really doing anything too crazy here. Still playing some Legion every week too as well. So
yeah, we actually honestly haven't been playing much Destiny since Worlds here either. I did, however, the Friday night after we got back, once the group showed up for Friday evening, I was like, I just rolled a random die, gave everybody a number, and then just gave away a set of battle droids to,
Wow.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be cool. Like, there's a lot of people we had that, support me in the shop, and I just thought it would be a good thing to do for the local community. And then last week we did a draft, which was pretty fun. We did 4 packs of Legacies and 2 of Empire at War. And it was a pretty good draft. It was a pretty good mix of cards in that.
Now, you're also doing a no bar, no holds, crazy grudge match for anything and anyone. Can you tell us a little bit about that event? Because I saw you post it for Tag, and I'm really curious about the design space for this tournament because it sounds pretty bonkers.
Yeah, so I'm calling it the Duel of Fates. So we lifted all erratas. We've canceled the balance of the force, and in order to make it completely broken, we lifted the overwrite rule as well. Yeah, so I mean, I figured if we were going to try and figure out which deck is truly the most broken, the overwrite rule has to be gone so FN can have a place. So yeah, it should be really interesting. We're planning on having about 20 people come out for that. Right now we've got 10 seats already taken, so I'm really looking forward to it. We'll be doing that next Saturday. I'm going to be giving away a pre-ordered box of Way of the Force with that and another set of battle droids. Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
Man, I'm tempted to fly out for that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I haven't actually been doing much anything gaming-wise in the last month, and I probably won't be until July. Letting everyone know right now, my wife and I are actually going to be moving back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in about a month. So with that comes finding a place to live and a new job and getting all those details on top of packing and so on and so forth. So if you've noticed that the Knights of Ren page and somewhat has been a little lighter than usual, yeah, that's because I'm in the midst of packing it up and getting out of Orlando. So just so everyone knows, I haven't quit the game. I'm still playing it online. My time is immensely tight with basically recording, editing this, and then getting back to the whole move process. But also, I do want to say a big thank you to Lake and his contribution and hard work for Destiny Versus. He's got some more shows coming, and it's just been a pleasure to have him come onto the crew. And if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to episode 602 or his previous iteration of Destiny Versus, where he talked about Destiny versus Magic the Gathering, I really recommend checking those shows out because it's a lot of fun. It's a great new perspective, and it's just really interesting to see how Destiny compares to other games games that are established or other games that are maybe digital versus analog. Like, it's just always, I think it's interesting to see how games stack up against each other, because there's a reason why Magic is successful, Hearthstone is successful, and Destiny is successful. And sometimes I think that can help game designers, developers, and players kind of find, strong crossovers so that players can see what works well amongst all card games and then focus on using those strategic variables to help win games. And the same thing for designers. They can say, hey, this works really well for this game. Let's apply it to our game. It doesn't have to be a copy paste, but it can be like the mindset or the game theory that helps establish success within a card game. So anyways, I'm doing well. I'm playing Destiny here and there, and I'm playing a little bit of Legion here and there, but overall I'm very excited to move back to Texas because there's Jack in the Box and In-N-Out Burger and Whataburger and all kinds of really delicious food that just isn't here in Orlando. Anyways, some big stuff came out this week in terms of movies, and we're going to have a quick, really short, spoiler-free review for Solo. Did you guys see it, first of all?
Yeah, I saw it opening night at like 10 p.m. my time. I was not super ridiculously excited going into it. Not the way I was really excited for like Last Jedi. And I still am more mixed feelings about Last Jedi. And with probably Rogue One being like the most similar to the Solo movie, since it's the other story movie, they're not really super easy to compare, because Rogue One still kind of is like something that kind of starts and ends and goes right into the next movie. Solo kind of feels like it's off in its own little realm, where there's actually this weird time period that actually has room to expand. So one of the things that was nice about Solo is not knowing that the next thing that directly happens is going to be Rogue One or A New Hope or something like that. But overall, I think the movie was really well done. The characters were pretty good, and Solo himself, while I was probably worried most about him and the new actor playing him, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't Harrison Ford, but it didn't take me out of the movie so much that I could I just sat there, enjoyed the movie, and it was fine. I did really like Donald Glover playing Lando, though. I think that was great, and a lot of the side characters. Woody Harrelson's character was pretty great too. Yeah,
I remember seeing this movie 17 years ago when it came out on Fox under Firefly. That was a really good story. It was the first episode they aired, the train heist. It was great.
I don't even think that's even remotely like this. But.
I feel like it's got a lot of similarities to it, just based on what I've seen. But I haven't seen the film yet.
It is that kind of side of the universe where it's more that space westerny side. Basically take out all the hints of the Jedi stuff that you see in most of the other Star Wars movies. Even Rogue One, no, it didn't have the Jedi stuff either, but it did have Vader. He did have he was there. He was doing stuff. It wasn't completely devoid from the movie the way it feels like. It's just that's what this wasn't about. That was a lead into A New Hope. Solo is kind of its own movie in its own period, its own space of Star Wars that hasn't really been touched by the movies yet at all. And I think it's just kind of a good kind of baseline for if this is the kind of movie we're going to see going forward, when we start getting 2 Star Wars movies or so a year, once they start giving it the Marvel treatment, which I'd kind of expect with all these ones that we've seen announced. If they can at least keep the quality up of a movie like Solo, I think that it'll be really good for the franchise overall, because Solo was not a perfect Star Wars movie, but it was a good movie, and I would definitely want to see it again, and I would definitely want to see more Star Wars stuff along that lines.
So if you're saying if we're comparing Star Wars to Marvel, which Marvel movie would this be?
Ooh,
I don't even know if that is not a comparison, but
it's not a fair comparison. But I want to say
it'd be closer to Iron Man.
I was gonna say Iron Man 2,
maybe around. It's just it's the beginning of the launch of the extended universe, or the movie cinematic universe of Star Wars outside of the saga set. Whereas Rogue One was not the beginning of that. This is the beginning of the out of the saga universe.
Yeah, so I like the film. I agree with your assessment. The couple things I wanted to tack on are, I loved Lando, Donald. Oh, he nailed it so well. The guy who played Chewie was perfect. I did not know that wasn't Peter Mayhew the entire film. I knew it wasn't him going into it, but he was. You'll never know. You'll never know. Han, he played a good Han.
But it wasn't Harrison Ford's Han either. That's kind of like,
yeah, that's the catch, is like it feels like it's a different version of Han. Like, without spoiling anything, by the end of the movie, you've seen some maturity and some evolution and some character development, and you begin to start to see why Han Solo, like Harrison Ford Han Solo, is the way he is. But the thing that I took from Solo that I loved the most, number one, there is a ton of fan service to Clone Wars and Rebels and all kinds of like offshoot stuff. And I don't want to say what it is because you should go watch the film. It's not perfect. I think it's a solid B. It's not mind-blowing amazing, but it's not like bad. It's a solid good film. But if you're like a big Star Wars nerd and you've invested in the shows and the movies and some of the written content, there's a lot of rewarding stuff just kind of scattered throughout the entire film. And I thought that was really, really nice, just because it also helps. And this is my second favorite thing about Solo. They're finally beginning to play with the established universe that we know. So some of the characters from previous films are mentioned. Some of the planets from previous films are mentioned, and it begins to form up like a time frame and a little bit of a scope of where Solo is and what Solo is doing. But it's still open enough that he can go places and do things, and they can make films about him. I would love to see a Lando film, because there's so much now with that character that you want to know about just from his existence in Solo. Like, I don't want to ruin things, because there's so many scenes where someone says something or does something or mentions a place that they've been, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like relative to, you know, A New Hope, or, you know, episode 2, The Clone Wars, or so on and so forth. And you're just like, I really want to know more. And I think that although Solo is not a great film, it opens up the universe for more potentially good films to actually exist and explore some of the space that's mentioned in these early on, you know, Solo movies and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. I mean, I pick at it, but at the same time, like, I do want to see it, and I hope the best for it. Honestly, I'd love to see some expanded universe stuff start coming out and be good quality.
Yeah, I was really hoping they'd have a Dash Rendar reference in there, but yeah, that didn't happen.
There were a lot of good references already, like, and I think that is what felt really good about it. Like, the fan service kind of stuff. It is good.
Just don't go in with any expectations, because my biggest complaint, it was the same thing with Rogue One. The film, for some reason, tries to up the ante, so to speak, with, you know, these situations where it's like, oh my gosh, if we don't complete this mission, someone is going to die. And the problem is, it's Chewie and Han on the mission, and you know it's going to happen to them. They're not going to die. So when you get in that position and the film is trying to shove down your throat, this is important, we have to succeed. And, you know, okay, will they succeed? Okay, will they die? No. Like, when you know the answer to the question they're presenting to you, it seems kind of a slap in the face to the audience, because it's like, we know what's going to happen. Rogue One, I thought, was a strong way of like, we know these people are going to die. So the film was just kind of this adventure of how they die.
In Rogue One, they could have been mysteriously just not part of like the movies. Like, there are characters like
they could have landed. They could have landed on Alderaan.
Oh, boo!
I mean,
Rebels is a
good example of like Hera was in Rogue One, or like they referred to her from Rebels in Rogue One, but she's not dead. She's not on screen, but she's never, like, I don't know if she's ever going to be in a movie, but it's just kind of like, yes, these characters can exist. They can have had roles in episodes, you know, as part of the main storyline. They just didn't have to have screen time. So like, they didn't have to die in Rogue One, but at least like Solo, it's like, well, we definitely know that these guys, they do have their own level of plot armor, and
yeah,
it's a little weird.
That's
but
what was frustrating. Was
the worst.
I think it happened twice in the film, where there was like a various situation, and it's only Chewie and Han, and they're like, we're gonna die, and you're like, no, they're not. But you know, they're acting and things are like happening around them. It's like the music is loud, and you're like, you're like, yeah, but they can't die. Like, it's not gonna happen. So that was like my only complaint, was the film trying to present tension where there was like no tension at all. So anyways, I think it's worth seeing. I know some people are kind of on the fence and some people don't like it. And I think that's every movie. And I do not think Han Solo is a great film. And if you're not interested, I don't really think you're going to miss out on anything if you wait for it to go to Blu-ray and rental. So
if you like Star Wars, though, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you're going to want to see it still. I don't think it's not the. I just don't think it's the worst Star Wars film.
I will say this, without revealing any spoilers, there is a very cool character cameo at the end of the film, and I think seeing Solo is worth that because it opens up a lot of questions.
I know. I was so happy to see Jar Jar. Oh my god!
Shut up! It's not Jar Jar. Oh Lord, it's not Jar Jar.
He's my favorite character.
So we're gonna move on. But speaking about Jar Jar, he was one of the new spot. Well, he wasn't a new spot gloss.
Newer.
Rose was the new spot gloss.
Rose is the new one. Rose. Oh, I want Rose real bad. I've been playing on decks for a while now.
Yeah, I saw the Rose, and I was like, oh man, now my mill deck can be quote unquote foiled out with spot gloss Yoda, Jar Jar, and Rose. Oh man, that would be super, super fun. Actually, Cruisin' from the Discord channel, he didn't know what spot gloss to get, so he put it to a vote, and people voted for him to get Jar Jar. And I was like, hey man, Jar Jar's real good.
It's not the last one I'd want by any means.
No.
There's much worse options than Jar Jar.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we talked about this on the last episode the team was actually on, and that was Kublacon and Momocon. We're not going to go into the details of all the decks and all the lists. Those are readily available online. You can check them out pretty much everywhere right now. Our Discord has them. The Facebook group has them. I know the Chance Cube was out at Kublacon, so they've done coverage of that. But not surprisingly, we're going to talk about Kublacon first. So Sunday, the standard winner 6-0 was Boba 7th. Saturday, the trilogy winner was Yoda Zeb. Friday, the standard winner was Boba 7th. Momocon has a little bit more to discuss, but I want to talk about Boba 7th doing so well here and not doing so well at Worlds. Do you guys have any thoughts on that particular reason? Because we saw a lot of Boba 7th at Worlds, but it didn't really top. And yet the very next big GQ in America, both days, at least on the Kublacon side, are won by Boba 7th in the standard tournaments.
I mean, part of it could just be the meta. I think you'd have one of it's going to be more of the West Coast meta versus Worlds having people from all over. That could affect a lot. And matchups there's a lot to say. I it's not that Boba 7 just because Boba 7 didn't make it into as much of the higher ranks, there weren't as many of them at the higher ranks at Worlds, doesn't mean that it still wasn't a popular enough or strong enough deck to bring to Worlds. It was certainly a fine option. It wasn't my play style. Sean from Artificery, Pearl Yeti, he brought it to Worlds and got 18th. And he did he went 5-1 day one with it. It's a strong deck. It has the ability to do some disgusting things with some early burst damage. So I'm not surprised that it's still doing well.
Well, let me size it up just in case people listening want to know what the top tables we're looking at. So Kublacon on Friday was Boba 7th as the 6-0. And then the 5-1s were Kylo Anakin, Aura Singh Talzin. There was a Naked Palpatine, believe it or not. There was a Rayla, a Sabine Ezra, and then a Rey Ayla Jawa.
Oh, that's a weird one.
And then
Rey 1, the first Rey Ayla Jawa, 5 die.
Yeah, Rey from Awakenings. It's Elite Rey, Elite Ayla, and 1 Jawa.
I'm not sure what to make of that. I think we're all a little stunned.
And then the Sunday standard from Kublacon was once again 6-0, Boba 7th. And then 5-1, you've got Talzin Aura Singh, 7th Sister, Sienna Night Sister, Sabine Ezra, Kylo Anakin, Talzin Aura Singh, Sabine Rebel Trooper, and then Boba 7th Sister. So it's a pretty...
Not a lot of vehicles there.
Yeah, no mill, obviously. Maybe the Jawa deck is mill, but I highly doubt that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, it's an action cheat deck with Rey.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've seen stuff along those lines with utilizing Rey and Ayla. Sometimes you just run 1 die Rey so you can run somebody else there instead. But
props to the player getting a Jawa to a 5-1. That's what I wanted to do at Worlds with. I really wanted Jar Jar and Patience to hit top tables, so props to the Jawa. But if you're looking at the top tables, it's not different from Worlds. It's not different from the meta we've seen. And yet Boba 7th came on top 2 different days.
I don't think the meta is different. Like, I mean, we're still playing in the same cycle, right? But I do think that maybe some of the decks that they ran into were different. Worlds had a lot of interesting deck designs, and not everything that was seen at Worlds is showing up in all these different tournaments. Granted, now, not all of them made day 2, but they did give tough matchups to what we consider top tier decks, including Boba 7. And they were designed to do so.
So is it possible that Boba 7th is similar to the old Pomaz? It's just really good in the Swiss?
It certainly is really good in, like, Swiss if it doesn't roll bad. Like, it doesn't even have to roll, like, super well. It's just to not roll, like, terrible. It's kind of more like... I mean, it's still got a very one-track game plan. It's kind of like a Django V. Like, it's an aggro kind of deck that has
it's mango beers.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think it's probably in a better place than Django Veers ever was, because that still had like better answers to it. Like, the only way to really answer Boba 7th truly well is to have absolute ton of dice removal or being able to hit back just as hard to be able to kill them.
Yeah, I think it's a solid deck. I mean, Rick liked it. Rick played it at Worlds. But him coming out of Worlds, he said the problem that he had with it was just inconsistency on his dice rolls. His deck rolled bad for him, and that was it. And that's one of the things that some of the other decks did have long-term, was the ability with Yodas and other things to correct your dice and give you back some of those turns that you lose with Boba 7.
Right. And the other problem is, out of the entire number of players, we don't know all the deck lists. We don't know the full pool of dice. We don't know everything. So we're only really looking at like the top 8 decks that have been posted online. So it's just hard to tell, because, I mean, if 60% of the players brought Boba 7th, that's a really high chance of the deck doing well, performing in a tournament. So there's a lot of variables we can't account for, but I think it's interesting that, like, before Worlds, Boba 7th was very popular and doing very well at GQs, and then Worlds, it didn't really do that well. And then we come back to the GQ scene, and boy, it's performing very well once again.
Do we know how many players were at Kublacon?
Offhand, no, I do not.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That might be kind of telling too, as to how many people were there, as to how it played out as well. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter how many players. You still got to win 6 games.
It's true. The player count at Momocon was notably less, though, and that kind of is what led to that being a little bit different, because there were no 6-0s, at least in the first 2 days, right?
Yeah, so something of interest, Momocon only had 1 6-0 on Sunday, and that was the standard with Talzin, Bala Trooper, 5-die villain. It went up against an Obi Maz, if I'm not mistaken. So Friday and Saturday, there were not 64 players, which means there was the potential of someone not winning with a 6-0, and that's exactly what happened. And I would love to discuss just that before we get into 5-die villain, because I think that's also a very interesting topic. But this is the first GQ we've had where this has happened, and there's a lot of speculation, things to talk about. Like, some people don't like the fact that, the guy who went 5-0 lost 1 game. He technically is the winner of the tournament, but he doesn't get to go to Worlds. Then there's people who are like, hey, doesn't matter. We know that you either go 6-0 or nothing happened. You knew that coming in. And it's just an interesting discussion, because it hadn't happened. Now it's happened. And there's a lot of ways to feel for both parties, because I don't think either is wrong, but it does seem kind of lousy to take your time and money, come out to an event, go 5-1, you technically won it, and you don't get to go to World. So you'd have to come to another GQ for your chance to get a guaranteed seat, because at this point, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's weird, because like, these are considered premier level events. Yes, which is basically only on par with like Worlds and the national champs, and like that's what the GQs are considered, like a top tier event by FFG standards. Granted, I still don't fully agree with that, because it's literally just a 6-round Swiss tournament with a ultra punishing way to get knocked out with only 2 eliminations. But if they're gonna like try to sell it as like a top tier tournament, it doesn't even have a top cut, which feels kind of weird for a top tournament like that. But the fact that you can actually have a winner that doesn't win just doesn't make sense to me. Like literally at that point, they're not playing for anything. And like the final game, if the one person is playing to go to get a seat for Worlds if there's a 5-0 versus a 4-1. The 5-0 is playing for a seat at Worlds. The 4-1 is playing, I guess, for 2 tickets, but not their own seat at Worlds. Like, I know that like it's set up to be you go 6-0, you get your ticket to Worlds, but I think it would have just been a better system if it was either like a flexible number of rounds based on the amount of players there, such that basically one person for each Galactic Qualifier would go to Worlds, and that is the one person that wins that Galactic Qualifier, which in most cases would be the one person that does go undefeated. But when you get the weird pair downs and there is only one left, but by the time there is one undefeated left, I think that should be the end of the end of the Galactic Qualifier. At least that one person, the last undefeated, should be the one that get a seat to Worlds, so that this doesn't happen. People don't feel like they're wasting their time. I think the whole double elimination is probably an actual bigger problem from a non like hyper competitive side about Destiny. If you're going into these things and you're at a convention, you're treating it like it's just a 6-round Swiss tournament. It's not the biggest thing in the world. It's not a huge time commitment like 6 hours. A 6-round tournament, it's only like 3.5 hours. It's smaller than a lot of the national championships and stuff are going to be. Like, it's not the worst thing to do, but getting kicked out after 2 rounds just because you haven't found your skill range in Swiss yet. So maybe you are a player that goes 3-3 in a 6-round Swiss normally. You don't even get the chance to do that. You don't get a chance to lose your first 2 games, win 2, lose 1, and win another, and then feel good about it for the day because you still went 3-3. You get to go 0-2 and go home. Barely get any tickets. And I think that part of it is probably the real problem. As much as I'd like to see the top end also get kind of changed a little bit, I think the fact that it's just not very rewarding for people who are not on the highest tier of competitiveness in the game, and it doesn't really have to be.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point of it being a premier tournament as well, right? Like, it's not necessarily designed to be rewarding for everyone. It's designed to be rewarding for the person that makes it through to the end. I mean, while I agree with that assessment, the system as it is in place, I'm fine with it personally. I mean, it sucks for the guy that went 5-1. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's a tough break, and it's a tough loss to take. But I mean, that's also the system that was in place, that's been in place, and it's been in place for all the other ones, and it's worked out okay. And some of them have been short people too. If I'm not mistaken, there was a couple that were pretty short on people in other places as well. So just for this one to be short on people and to not have an undefeated is probably why it's standing out. So I mean, but I'm totally cool with it. I mean, you know that going into it, if you want that seat at Worlds, you got to go undefeated. And unless they do change the system, which I would totally support too, if they wanted to do it until you have one undefeated left, or if they did a top cut to see who the winner is, like they do for the premier events like Worlds and regionals, I mean, I totally support that too. But yeah, I mean, I really don't, I don't see any issue with it personally. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, other than that, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it other than, you know, it's a tough break and get them next time.
I mean, I don't like the fact that there's not a top cut for that tournament like that, especially like, because Top Cut is the best Destiny. I mean, not everybody's gotten to play a lot of Top Cut Destiny, but Best of 3 Destiny is clearly, if you played enough of it, it's the way that the game's like much more balanced around. Like,
it's the way it should be decided,
because there are dice involved. It's not an entirely luck-based game, but there are factors involving the dice that will drastically affect you across the course of an 6 to 8 round Swiss over a course of a day, such that it is really hard to go undefeated. And even in a 6-round tournament, it's really hard to go undefeated in a best of 1 based on skill alone. Like, the best skill player will not always go undefeated in a Destiny 6-round Swiss tournament because of the dice, because of its best of 1. I think if you had a cut, I think you would see a little bit less players in the top thing. It'll probably be like a lot of the same people going to the same events, getting the same top things. Not that we are seeing a lot of people sometimes getting like really close to getting 6-0, but not a ton of people who have like going to every event and are 6-0ing at every single GQ either.
Right. Well, I mean, but we also said coming out of PAX when we went there to PAX Unplugged, what we saw coming out of that event was top players in the top seats, and what is to be expected.
Top players in the top seats, just not necessarily the ones going like 6-0, like, is still a crapshoot sometime.
It can be. I do agree that if they went to a best of 3, like a top cut best of 3, I think that would be much a much fairer system, and I think it would come out a lot better, and we wouldn't run into a situation like this. But I mean, at the same time, I'm still fine with this system myself.
Now, that brings up a really interesting question. Is the GQ, as it's been designed, supposed to be a representation of a big tournament where you do X rounds of Swiss and then a top cut? Or is the GQ intended to be a faster way to get players seats to Worlds? Because if the intent was, hey, just play 6 rounds and we pick a winner based on your record of 6-0, then there's no real need to change it. But if they're actually trying to get the best players and they want to see, who can grind out the top seat, that could be important to future GQs. Maybe in the 2019 season, they might go to a top cut because they actually are trying to make this a bigger, more premier tournament instead of just a 6-round Swiss tournament.
Well, and to be fair too, like if you really want to talk about it as a premier event, right? If this is your jumping off point that you go 6-0 and win your seat to Worlds, unless you've played in other regionals or some competition of that level or Worlds before and haven't made a top cut, like you're kind of going to be unprepared for that, because this tournament that's getting you that into that position to go does not play the same as Worlds. Without having a top cut.
Right, and that's the thing that's really weird is the regionals do have a top cut.
Right.
And that gets you to Worlds. This does not. Should it?
But it is like the shortcut to the Worlds too, if you think about it. Like having to win a store championship to get a bye at a regional to then only like the single winner of a regional, of which at this point there were probably as many Galactic Qualifiers as there were regionals. And not to mention the when you go to a Galactic Qualifier at a weekend at a convention, like it's like 3 Galactic Qualifiers or two or 3, sometimes even 4. So like if you want to actually get a seat at Worlds, a Galactic Qualifier should be easier in a lot of instances actually than what's it called, regionals, which is why it does seems like it is kind of like designed to be the feeder into Worlds more than regionals stuff actually is, which is, it's kind of weird because it's also the thing to get spot glosses that like that's the other real reason for it, because at this point I'm not too worried about my 2019 World seat, because if things hold up right, I should automatically be in from being the top 16 again this year. We'll see, but I'm not too worried about it. But I mean, obviously any Galactic Qualifiers I go to, I still want to max out on my tickets. But
so here's another question, and you kind of alluded to it already, Nick. Why do you think that the GQs have the best prize support, better than Worlds, and yet they're arguably the easiest of the bunch to get into Worlds? If you had to select, GQ or regionals or, the lottery, God forbid.
I mean, like the lottery actually probably is the easiest way in all honesty, because especially this year.
It's the luckiest way. But if you had to, I guess I should clarify, if you had to earn it by playing a tournament, the GQ is significantly easier because it's just 6 rounds. Now there is more pressure because it's completely unforgiving. So that's kind of the balance there, is if you go to a regional, you can still lose a game, make it to the top cut and win. But for some reason, the GQs have superior prize support, even better than Worlds. And that was something a lot of people were kind of not super happy about, because, we went to Worlds and we only had Hondo as a spot gloss. And then in the same month, Kublacon and Momocon, they had Hondo and they had Rose and Jar Jar and Boba Fett and all these other spot glosses, and you're like,
well, also, if you don't live on the West Coast, you're also at a severe disadvantage in terms of Galactic Qualifiers right now too, because they're based on the West Coast. They have had a few that are just like a few day Galactic Qualifier events that aren't even part of a convention, but otherwise, like most of the big conventions they're going to are on the West Coast. They're going to a few on the East Coast. They're going to a few like here and there, but like the Midwest is basically been dead. Like we had Adepticon and that's it. And I think they're coming to Origins, which is in Ohio. It's like, that's a little far from me. Like that's like when you even think about like the Minnesota meta, like all the people from Fantasy Flight, like they're not even going to make it to Origins. Probably they might make it down to Gen Con, which has not had an announcement for a Galactic Qualifier necessarily yet, but it's still possible that there'll be one. So, I mean, it is kind of, it's still a weird system that the prize support is the best there. It's still limited based on like who can actually attend these things for one. I think the weirder ones are the ones that are at PAX as well, because PAX Unplugged is a different story, because that's a smaller, newer convention. PAX West, PAX East, PAX South, those kind of ones are been the ones that are like tickets go on sale, they sell out immediately. Galactic Qualifier gets announced later. There's X amount of people that were interested in Destiny and are also happen to have already gotten tickets for the PAX. They'll go to it and they'll enjoy it. But even PAX then ends up having really small Galactic Qualifiers because the people that wanted to go to play Destiny are not necessarily the people that actually had tickets to the event. So it's just kind of weird to have it locked behind that, and then it also be the best prizes in Destiny. I don't know what way they can really go forward to change that or make it better. Like, I like that these spot glosses exist. I wish it'd be a little easier to obtain all of them. I'm not a big seller kind of guy anyway, so like I don't actually care that these are worth $100, $200, $300. I just want the full set someday. So to me, the fact that these look the coolest, there's the most of them, it still is the best prize, even if it's not for monetary value for me. But I would like them, the availability of them to go up by having more qualifiers available, or the ticketing being a little more generous, something like that.
Well, hopefully they'll be better this time around as well, because I think the whole Galactic Qualifier got announced a little bit after some of the initial launches of the ticket sales on the other ones.
Yeah, that's true.
So hopefully that'll be hammered out this time. I mean, in all honesty, like a lot of this stuff we're still talking about is in the first year and a half of FFG getting the game up and running and then trying to set up a competitive format as well. So, I mean, now this year going forward, we shouldn't have as many hiccups with this kind of stuff, and we should be seeing better prize, and it should be coming to the smaller events as well. At least that's my opinion, and that's my hope. The prizes that they announced for Nationals look super cool. And hopefully that's just a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I do like the Nationals prizes, especially the fact that like the top 4 gets a little better one. But like the Nationals prizes, while they are cool, are still kind of just like another example of the typical FFG tournament prizes. Like they're cool, but they're not like Galactic Qualifiers is still technically better, I'd say, because there's more options. It's just a wider range of interesting things. Even the North American Championships, I don't know if those are even, I can't tell if those are better or worse. I think it's probably worse than the Nova, the America's National Championship one.
Have they shown National and the North American Championship?
Yeah, the North American one's like the Afra themed prizes.
Oh, okay.
They're cool, but it's like, I actually didn't like the playmat. Of all things, like of all the playmats that I've seen and collected, like that is like probably the least desirable of the ones from the big tournaments. So it is what it is. I don't hate Afra. I want to like Afra more. I haven't read all her comics, so.
It sounds like you're hating on Afra to me.
No, I played her last week.
Didn't do well, did you?
No, I didn't do well. It was awful.
That's why you're hating on her.
Yeah, a little Wookiee rage here.
Got the jelly.
Yeah.
So here's a question, and this is just purely speculation, but I think it's always fun to kind of talk about it because it could happen. What do you think FFG can do with their prize support to help strengthen the game?
I think it's too early to really, like, I really want to see what's coming out with the store championships and so forth. Like,
yeah,
before I talk about how bad their support is or their prize support. I actually think they stepped up their game with the North American and the National Championship prizes this year. They're better than they were, and we don't even know what else they're going to have there for that matter. I mean, it's best right now just to wait and see some of these things before I think before we start jumping down on that, getting on that soapbox and just stomping the shit out of it. I think we got a little bit more to see.
Sure. I should actually clarify. This isn't a complaint at FFG.
Oh,
this
you're
is just like, oh, I am.
I can hear it in your tone.
Well, my tone is because I'm still getting over that flu because my throat is just destroyed. I was actually mostly intrigued by the shield tokens that were little stormtrooper helmets.
Oh yeah, those are pretty cool looking.
Well, no, they said those were Phasma helmets, I think. Is that what that was? Anyways, I just thought it was very interesting that FFG was starting to, I don't know how to say it, I guess adjust their own tokens, because in all the previous games, like a shield token was fairly close to the same design. Like it might be a little bigger or more bubbly, but it was still generally the same color, same shape, same design-ish. And then they just used a Phasma helmet. I was like, whoa, that's a huge difference compared to a lot of their other prize support. And
playing the world ones,
I thought that was
the Droidicas.
Yeah, those were cool. Well, I mean, they're still blue, and they're still. I mean, they're different, but it seems like they're approaching their price support a little bit more adventurously, and I thought that was really good. Like I said, this wasn't a complaint because their price support that they've announced so far is really good. But I'm just curious because it's still not necessarily what everyone wants, and each of us want something different from whatever game we're playing. So I was more or less curious, what do you personally want to see that you would go, yeah, I want to play this tournament for that very specific thing, what is that thing? I
could really care less what the prize support is personally. Like I want cool stuff just like everybody else, but like I really don't care. I just want to play to compete.
That's fair.
Like I just want to win to win. Like I don't want to. There's nothing that they could put out there that I would be like, oh, I have to win that, unless it was like a cool trip somewhere.
I was gonna say if they did translucent dice, I'm sold.
I will say, yeah. Once we start getting promo dice, if we ever start getting promo dice, I'd be all up on that. That's definitely somewhere I like to see that they definitely haven't.
I mean, all their other games have it. So
this is different. Granted, it's going to be like
well, their dice are smaller. They probably don't take 9 months to produce, and this is my personal dream. But if they ever made like translucent Yoda dice, I would and that would be even really cooler. Like if they didn't do I don't know what they call it, but that printed artwork that they like seal into the die, if they somehow like laser engraved it or something where like the die was truly translucent, I know that would cost probably a fortune, but I would absolutely travel to an event to try and win translucent dice. Like I would love that.
Yeah, if they have any kind of level of interesting stuff that they can do it, like any kind of alternate anything dice, I am curious to see however they want to do it, even if it's bad in the first iteration. Just this fact that I just want to see them try it. Like that's the frontier I want to see. That's a great suggestion, and I think that's probably the thing I'm most interesting to see. But I kind of like Todd for the most part. Otherwise, where like these prizes are cool, they give me something like to work for. It's like, yeah, I want to get that prize when I'm playing at this tournament, but like, as long as it isn't just like garbage art like Mon Mothma, I'm happy enough with just that, and I'm not really selling much of my promos or anything. So for the most part, I want them to have them. So whatever they're willing to give me is fine. So I'm not too terribly upset with the prize support and the way that other people are, but that's probably different from the norm because I don't come from a Magic background at all. I am playing this for fun and for the competition and for like the people, honestly. At this point, like if it wasn't for like Knights of Ren and Artificery and just all the other people I've met, at Worlds and all that stuff, like if it weren't for that, I don't know that I'd have had the heart to just stay with the game all the time. Like I probably would have just moved on and done other stuff, but just playing with the people is still the thing that's probably keeping me in the game more than anything. So
aw,
well, we love you too, Nick.
I want a hug now.
Yeah, give us a digital hug while we're at it.
So like as long as they just release the product, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing that really baffles me. Not, like this isn't a FFG hate episode. I'm just curious why like some events have really good price support and some don't. It's just baffling. But I think the biggest takeaway from this weekend for me personally is like the game is still really open. Like we're at the end of May. We have no idea when the new set is coming out, and there's still multiple decks at these GQs. Like we read off the standard ones, and it was like there's a Jawa in there. Ray 1 is still being played. There was a Rebel Trooper with Sabine. Okay, that's cool. That's really cool. So we could complain a lot, but I don't think that's going to do the game any good. But what is intriguing is how people are still innovating. At Worlds, we saw decks that we'd never seen before do well. At these GQs, we're seeing some decks that we didn't really anticipate. Go Jawa. I would love to talk to that player and say, what's with the Jawa? Like that's neat. And, if you're listening, things that like stuff that Todd's doing, with these wacky events, you can do at your store. You don't have to just play standard 100% of the time. You can do drafts. You can do trilogy. You can do any kind of restriction you want. I mean, you could say, hey, it's villains only this week. Hey, next week it's heroes only. Hey, week after that,
thematic pairs.
Thematic pairs. That's something I've actually been doing online is just random thematic pairs. It's like, all right, this week I'm playing hero thematic pairs, or I'm going to play prequels only, or, middle. I don't know what the middle films are called because now we have like, episodes 7 and 8.
Oh, yeah, they're called the best.
So where does like Rogue One and Solo fall into that? Because they're obviously Star Wars stories.
Rogue One, I mean, man, Rogue One was good, but Firefly, that's the best one to me.
Really? You're going back to that?
I'm not going to get off of that until I see it, and then I can say for myself that it's not Firefly. Right now, it's still Firefly.
As a film media person, I agree with you, but I also have a problem.
See,
because
and you've seen it, and you say you agree with me.
Wait. Hold on. Here's the problem. As a critic of film and an editor of film and whatnot, Solo is only 2 hours. Firefly is a whole season. You get way more character development, way more story arcs, way more story out of Firefly than you do in Solo. So although Firefly is way better than Solo, you also get way more time with those characters in that universe than you do with the film Solo. So if you compressed Firefly down into 2 hours, which would be impossible to do.
Serenity?
Yeah, but Serenity was based on seeing the show, because if you put Serenity up against Solo, I don't know if Serenity beats Solo, in all honesty.
I think it does. It's got to. That movie was amazing.
That movie was really good, but if you've never seen the show, I don't know if you would get it.
So you've seen both. So do you like Serenity or Solo more?
It's unfair because Serenity was the show finale.
No.
Serenity was the series
I think I've
finale.
only seen that once, but yeah.
Okay, if I had never ever seen anything from Firefly and I only watch Serenity, it's tough because I wouldn't understand some of the things.
Because you know I'm right.
I know
I'm right.
It's tough. Okay. It's super tough because Serenity was so good, but it was so good because I knew what was going on. I hate you.
Yep.
You're right. You're probably right. I don't know.
I'm going to start a Firefly podcast.
Leave a comment in the comments below. Which was better, Serenity or Solo? No, that's not even fair.
Oh my God, let's do it.
No, that's not even fair because Serenity's going to win.
It better win.
It's going to win. I would vote for Serenity.
See, I would too.
And I'm the one championing
What about you, Nick?
That Serenity is not as good as Solo.
I don't know. Alan Tudyk dies in both,
What? Okay, first of all, spoilers. Second of all, Alan's not in Solo.
No, you're right. He dies in both universes. So
yeah, he died in both universes.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to be like, spoiler alert.
Spoiler, you can't have spoilers in Serenity anymore. There's a statute of limitations.
Right.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I think 12 years is... Yeah, 12 years is like beyond spoiler
Has it really
level.
been 12 years?
In a long time.
It's at least 10, I think. It's at least 10 on the movie.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Firefly actually came out. The show came out, I think, in 2001.
I think you're right. That's probably right.
So,
which is really sad because if you watch Community, I love all their. We're gonna get Firefly back on the air shtick.
Donald Glover.
Oh man.
Connected Solo. Firefly Circle is now complete. Thank you.
We can all live in peace. That's such a tough one. I'm gonna have to actually think about that for a while. Man, I hate you so much because there's some pretty big gaps in Serenity too.
Well, yeah,
but dang it. Anyways,
you're welcome.
Man, thank you. That's what I'm gonna do for my Memorial Day is just ponder, which is better.
Well, see, you just saw Solo, so now go back and watch Serenity.
I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. I'm gonna have to do that tonight. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be mad. That movie's really freaking good.
Man, I hope we do good business for that movie. Maybe they'll make a sequel.
Man, I want them to bring Firefly Black so bad, but I just don't think they will. I don't think they will.
I don't think they will.
I don't want them to. I'm
yeah,
happy with where it is.
It's true, because if they do a reboot, it would just be kind of lousy.
Wouldn't be the same.
No, it really wouldn't. It was what it needed to be when it came out.
Yeah, I'm good with it where it was.
Anywho, that was a Kessel Run. Rick will be proud when he comes back. In fact, we sent him on that Kessel Run. That's why he's not here. He's just dealing with which is better, Solo or Serenity.
Yeah, he's been hearing me say that for like 3 weeks. So
really?
Yeah, I've been talking about that since I saw the first trailer with the train.
Boy, yeah, that is actually a very fair comparison now that I think about it. Ooh. Anywho, as we wrap this up, do you guys have anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I'll just throw out one more time, if anybody's in the Central Virginia area, next Saturday, Balance of the Forest tournament, bring your broken.
Yeah, I wish I lived close
to that. Where is that at, Todd?
That would be fun. Yeah, where do we go?
Total Access Games.
Oh, I thought it was called No Access Games.
Oh, that's just for you.
Oh, okay.
We only allow winners here.
Oh, well.
I don't know how I got here, though.
How do you...
I don't know how I got here. I've won nothing major.
Yeah, about that. None of us have.
I did win the Chance Cube Open. I got that on y'all.
Oh boy. Oh,
I'm gonna keep tooting that horn, man. That's all I got. That's all I got.
that's a horn to toot. All right.
Yeah, Todd's claim to fame is that he has beaten.
I'm the best player in the world right now.
He's beaten 2 runner-ups at Worlds, and that's a pretty good claim to fame, in all honesty.
I'm saying I got to be the best player in the world.
Yeah, but have you beaten Daniel or Edwin?
No.
Okay, problem solved.
Oh, but if you beat the number 2 person in the world, that means you have to be number 1, right? Like that's
right.
Logic.
Twice, both years.
Yeah, it's just like
Take that.
Yep, there you go. I was gonna say it's like that anime with the samurai with Samuel L. Jackson. I'm blanking on the name and I hate myself for it. Samurai 7? Oh gosh.
Afro Samurai?
Afro Samurai, yeah. That show. Oh my goodness. That would be crazy if Destiny was like that. Like you have to kill your opponent to take their headband, and now you're the number 2 player in the world until someone comes and defeats you, and you're just like, ugh.
All right, another Kessel Run. Like you just went from one right to the other.
Man, that would be such a great game though. Like you have a player ID, and as soon as you lose a major event, you have to like get a brand new player ID, and all your points like reset to 0. Anyways, I'm in the middle of designing a game with a friend, and we're just trying new design spaces and like just the most insane thing possible. And so like we're talking about like player deaths, like full deaths where you're gone, so you have to start from scratch. Anyways, we are done. That is the end of this show. Thank you everyone for joining us. As always, a huge shout out to all of our Patreons. Thank you for your support. We greatly appreciate helping out the show, making it all these things a possibility. And once again, thank you to Lake and everyone who's participated in Project HoloNet. If you're listening and you want to participate in creating content, be it written, audio, video, whatever you want, send us an email at the Knights of Ren podcast at gmail.com. Leave us a private message or post in the comments below. You want to participate, you want to help out, we'll connect with you and we'll see where you want to go. But thank you so much everyone for joining us. We are the Knights of Ren. We'll be back next time. Thank you so much for joining us, and may the Force be with you. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and join us on all of our social media outlets. And a big thank you to all of our Patreons for your support. We can't do this without your help, so make sure to join us for all of our exclusive Knights of Ren content.